afternoon, students. Today we are going to study the next chapter, acid, base and salts. In this chapter we are going to study the chemical properties of acid and base. You have already studied about acid and base in your earlier class. In 9th class, in this chapter we are going to study in detail about acid and base, as well as we are going to study the reactivity of acid and base with metals, non-metals and other chemicals. Moreover, we are also going to study the electrical conductivity of some ionic compounds. But before that, first we will recall the basic difference between the acid and bases. As we know that acids, the taste of acid are, they are sour in taste, whereas the taste of bases are, they are bitter in taste. Now the litmus test. How we will find out that the which chemical is acid and which is base? So acid turns the blue litmus paper to red, whereas the bases turns red litmus paper to blue. Now radicals in acids, H plus H ion as basic radical, okay, and in base OH minus as acidic radical. So these are the basic difference between acid and base. Here we are going to take red litmus paper and blue litmus paper to identify whether the given chemical is acid or base. So I am going to start from first solution. Change in color is like this, okay. So this red litmus paper changes to blue. That means this chemical is a base. Now I am going to take a blue litmus paper in this solution. Let's see what will happen. So what is the change? You can easily observe that this blue litmus paper changes to red. That means this chemical is acid, and the acid which I have taken is HCl, hydrochloric acid, which is a strong acid. Now I am going to take red litmus paper. I am going to dip it in this solution. Let's see whether it is going to change. Red will remain red and blue is going to change its color to red. So this indicates that this chemical is acid and it is hydrochloric acid. I am going to dip the red litmus paper, one of the solution. You can see that there is no change. I will use one more. Let's use blue litmus paper. Again there is no change. You can see both the red litmus paper and blue litmus paper, there is no change. So that means it indicates that this solution is neutral and this is a water. So it is neutral. So there is no change in color. Now students, let's recall ionic compounds. In previous chapter we have studied the formation of positive and negative ions. I have already explained you. Just for example, sodium, we have already studied this. In electronic configuration is 281. So in outermost orbit, one electron is there. This one electron is lost by the sodium and gained by the chlorine. So sodium become positive ion and chlorine become negative ion. So this ion is from the sodium, and sodium positive and chlorine negative, chloride ion negative, combine together to form compound known as NaCl or sodium chloride, and since they are having positive and negative charge, they are known as ionic compound. Now let's study dissociation of ionic compound. When the ionic compound present in the solid states, these positive and negative ions are side by side. There is a bond between them. It is known as ionic bond. As you can see here, all these sodium and chloride ion are completely packed. Now when the salt is dissolved in water, then the water molecule pushes themselves in between the ions of the compound and separate them from each other. Here you can see in this second diagram, these chloride and sodium ion get separated because of the water molecules, and such a solution is known as aqueous solution of NaCl or aqueous solution of any salt, and this is known as dissociation of ionic compound. So, and during the dissociation, ionic compound get dissociated in positive and negative ions. According to the Swedish scientist Arrhenius proposed a theory of acid and base. According to Arrhenius' theory of acid and base, acid is defined as an acid is a substance which on dissolving in water give rise to H ion as the only cations. HCl, for example, hydrochloric acid, when dissolved in water, that means the dissociation takes place, H ion, H plus and Cl minus, chloride ion, these two ions are going to form. Now, according to the same theory, what are the bases? A base is a substance which on dissolving in water gives rise to an OH minus ion as the only anion. For example, if NaOH is sodium hydroxide is dissolved in water, the dissociation takes place and sodium positive ions and OH minus ions are going to form. In this way, we can define acid and base on the basis of the H ion and OH ion concentration. Now let's classify acid and base. Let's study classification of acid. Acids are classified as strong acid. Acids which dissociates almost completely in H ions are called strong acid. For example, HCl, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid and sulfuric acid. These are all strong acid. Weak acids. Weak acids are those acids which does not dissociates completely in ions, in H ions. For example, acetic acid, CH3COOH. Now the third is strong base. Same as in case of strong acid, strong bases are those bases which dissociate completely into the ions. They are known as strong base. For example, NaOH, KOH and so many others are the strong bases. Now what are the weak bases? Weak bases are those which does not dissociate completely in ions. For example, ammonium hydroxide, NH4OH. Now let's study basicity of acid and acidity of base. So what is basicity of acid? It is the number of H ions obtainable by dissociation of one molecule of acid. So the number of H ion obtained by dissociation of one molecule of acid is known as basicity. Now what is acidity of a base? It is the number of OH ion obtained by dissociation of one molecule of base. So acidity of base is OH, number of OH ions in the base